Hamish Orbell, Clayton Station. We're at the head of the Fairlie Basin, 4,100 hectares, 1,100 hectares of flat and rolling, and 3,000 hectares of hill. Generally running sheep, beef, deer, with some cash crop and now some dairy grazing. It's a family farm. Grandfather bought the place in 1964. It was pretty, run down. It had no fertiliser history, so it's gone through a huge development phase over the last 50 odd years. I took over management 11 years ago when my father had an accident. All the tree lanes out on this side of the road, the majority of them were planted probably early 80s, which is 54k of tree lanes that were planted by my mother on the place. There was only about 1.2k of shelter belts when my parents bought the place. Self-fed silage pits are a brilliant thing. We used to have to spend a fair chunk of the end of the winter feeding deer with tractors, like a lot of people, and this year's stopped all that. We're down here every day, maybe every 2 days, moving this by hand, and we've got a lot less wastage with this way rather than a bun, which we were losing too much on the outsides. And if you got it too steep on the outsides to try and get it square, you still got wastage because you couldn't roll it properly. And I guess also with this, the bonus is we can stack all the tyres on top of the containers, that it's easier to put them back on the following year. And this will be for hinds the last 70 days, or right at the tail of the winter. We try and get all the hinds off the hill, be it there's one lot on swedes and kale and or fodder beet, and one lot on here. The terminal hinds will be in here. That allows the hill 70 days to recover into that first part of spring, so there's no deer on it. The sheep and cattle will go through that country and tidy up any tag, and then it'll be shut up so the clover can get re-established in that first part of the spring. This is the start of our nutrient catch area. It's about a hectare and a half. The river or the creek comes in and the end is all the way through this area and then back into the main river. We've started in the last year and a half testing water as it comes into Clayton, as it comes into the deer farm, and as it leaves the deer farm, to get a gauge or set a base level for where we actually sit: E. coli, nitrogen, phosphorus. Our major issue on Clayton, we've found, is E. coli, and not necessarily from the deer. The levels at the moment rise as they come into the deer farm. So the main area that we've got concern about is stock water creeks. We've actually, through the drought, had to put in a couple of new water schemes, which has actually allowed us to get rid of those stock water creeks. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that eliminates some of our E. coli issue, and we're constantly monitoring that just to see where we are. It's about finding that balance between production and looking after our environment. All the hill blocks have at least one, if not three areas, riparian areas, that all the water has got to go through before it gets to the nutrient catch area, to just assist with some of that nutrient loss and sediment loss. These are the areas that we did have planted out, but most of the trees, the poplars that we planted in here got frosted, we believe, or the drought got hold of them, and they will be planted again, but we might pick on smaller areas. We have out on the hill on some dark faces, we do have some mountain flax, I think it is, and a few cabbage trees. Using some of the natives from our area and bringing some of that seed source down into the swamp area and bring it into the farm, because it's probably the plants that are going to survive. But as you can see, there is a lot of creeks. This was an ex-swamp and it's been drained 30 years ago. So it is very difficult to try and fence all the creeks, but we've got to do something, and doing nothing is not acceptable.